بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. ربي أدخلني مدخل صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق واجعل لي من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. يا فتاح يا عليم افتح لنا فتحا قريبا. يا فتاح يا عليم افتح لنا فتحا قريبا. يا فتاح يا عليم افتح لنا فتحا قريبا. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. ما شاء الله. عيد مبارك. كل عام وانتم بخير. ما شاء الله. Alhamdulillah wa shukrillah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings we're experiencing. We ask Him to send blessings and peace upon our Master Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and all of his followers until the end of time. And we ask Allah ta'ala to accept our efforts and to put blessing and barakah in our efforts and to put benefit in our lessons, and that Allah Ta'ala open fahm and give us understanding of the religion through these efforts. Ameen. Would someone like to read the lines that we're on? So it's line...
If you want to volunteer, please
18.
raise your hand and I'll give you the mic, inshallah.
Starting from line 18.
I can pick a volunteer as well. Anybody? Sisters, brothers? Okay, Bismillah.
وفسر الإيمان بالتصديق والنطق فيه الخلف بالتحقيق فقيل شرط كالعمل وقيل بل شطر والإسلام شرحنا بالعمل مثال هذا الحج والصلاة كذا الصيام فدر والزكاة.
Okay, and the translation?
Faith has been interpreted to mean simply assent. As for actually having to pronounce it, there is dissension. Thus, some say it is a condition like deeds, while others say it is an integral part and that you should interpret Islam as deeds. Examples of this are the Hajj, the prayer, as well as the fast and zakah, so understand.
Okay, so the issue, it's alhamdulillah, the barakah of Imam Zayd's class is that he ended on this issue. And so it's a good segue to our class, inshallah. That what is the meaning of Iman and what is the meaning of Islam, and what are the repercussions of how those are defined. So first of all, the meaning of Iman, okay, the meaning of Iman or faith or belief, that he says وَفُسِّرَ الْإِيمَانُ بِالتَّصْدِيقِ, that Iman has been explained as assent or tasdeeq. So tasdeeq, they say it's the reality of tasdeeq is قول النفس حديث النفس التابع للمعرفة. It's a statement of the self, a statement of the soul that is built off of knowledge. Okay, a statement of the self that is predicated upon knowledge. And how did we define knowledge? Ma'rifah. Al-jazm al-mutabiq lil-haq aw lil-waqi'. Use both. That certainty that corresponds with reality. Okay, not ma'rifah, knowledge is certainty that corresponds with reality. So faith is hadithun nafs at-tabi' lil-ma'rifah. It's for the self to make a statement that corresponds with that knowledge. Okay, because, so what's that statement? There's different issues that, to mention. What's that hadithun nafs? Is amantu wa saddaqtu, is that I embrace and I believe in this. Okay, so it's an internal statement of faith, an internal statement of belief. And they say the reality of that is what's called id'an wa qabul. Id'an wa qabul. Id'an means acceptance or submission, and qabul is acceptance. So, if you want to give like a comprehensive definition, it's an internal acceptance and submission and admitting to knowledge. Okay, it's an internal acceptance of and submission to knowledge, which is certainty that corresponds with reality. So an internal acceptance of and submission to certainty that corresponds with reality. That's Iman, right? So why is it not simply knowledge that corresponds with reality? Because many people will know the truth but reject it. They refuse to accept it. Many people know the truth and they know it with certainty, but they refuse to submit to it. They refuse to accept it. So that's why the scholars of Kalam, they say that Iman, there has to be this id'an and qabul. There has to be this internal acceptance and submission to what that person knows, right? And we mentioned, I think last time, that many people at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that they knew his truthfulness with absolute certainty. Especially many of the Quraysh all knew it because they knew that he was Sadiq Amin ﷺ. He was the truthful one, the one who fulfilled every trust. And then a lot of the rabbis of the Jewish tribes in Medina, that they knew the truthfulness because they had in their scriptures detailed descriptions of him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you know, some of them became Muslim, like Abdullah ibn Salam, one of the most learned of them, Allah be pleased with him, that he believed in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when some of the Jews were asked about him in Medina, before they knew he was a believer, they said, yes, he's a great man, he's a scholar, and he's someone who's trustworthy. And when then he came out and gave his Shahada, they said he doesn't know anything, and you know, he's foolish, etc., etc. So and Abdullah ibn Salam, Allah be pleased with him, he confirmed that when the Quran was revealed, that they know him just like they know their sons, he confirmed that, and he said that in fact we knew him better, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what's in the context of Islam though, belief in this religion, what is the tasdeeq of? What is the assent of? They say that it's tasdeeq al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it's believing in the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, fi kulli ma ja'a bihi, with respect to everything that he brought. Wa ulima min ad-din bid-darura, and that is necessarily known of the religion. That is necessarily known of the religion. So everything that we know for a fact that the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, everything that we know as factual that he brought, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the tasdeeq has to be of all of that, right? So the examples that they give of something that's ma'lum min ad-din bid-darura, necessarily known of the religion, are, for example, the 5 pillars. Okay, that the 5 pillars, one doesn't need a proof. One doesn't need to, you know, a Muslim who's in an environment of where Muslims are, they would not need some sort of evidence to prove that they have to pray 5 times a day, or they have to give the zakat, or when Ramadan comes they have to fast, because it's just necessarily known in the Muslim community, right? Everyone knows the basics of Islam, you could say. And the same thing with the prohibition of the well-known major kaba'ir, major sins, like murder, like fornication, drinking khamr, etc. So accepting all of that, okay, Iman is to accept all of that, because that's what we necessarily know as being from the religion. There's no doubt about those issues. Secondary issues that one has to learn, for example, when one learns it, then one is responsible to believe it. But if a person were to reject a secondary issue that's not necessarily known of the religion, it would not take them out of Islam. Okay, that if they, even after understanding the evidence, and if they were still to refuse, it would not take them out of Islam, but it would be, if it came from like a sound hadith, or, you know, it'd be a type of fisq, a type of corruption, spiritual corruption, but they would still be Muslim. But to deny something necessarily known of the religion, that's very problematic. And if a person were presented with the fact that it's necessarily known in the religion. And they were taught the fact that this came mutawatir, it came from, because the basic, common denominator for things that are necessarily known in the religion is that there's a tawatur. And so if a person were shown that and they still rejected it, then it's very problematic. They would have a qadi or a judge or a scholar would have to see their situation, and it very well could entail disbelief for that person. So وَفُسِرَ الْإِيمَانُ بِالتَّصْدِيقِ. So Iman is explained as tasdeeq, right? As tasdeeq. So then what about the Shahada? What about the Shahada? The Iqrar or the Nutq. And that's the second half of the line. He says, Rahimahullah, وَالنُّطْقُ فِيهِ الْخُلْفُ بِالتَّحْقِيقِ. That there is a difference of opinion with respect to the Shahada. There's a difference of opinion. And this difference of opinion refers to a non-Muslim becoming Muslim. Okay, because they say that awladul muslimin, the children of Muslims, are by default Muslims, right? By default, they don't have to declare a shahada to enter into Islam. It's a natural default. Whereas a non-Muslim, what's the status? What's the ruling of their statement of the shahada? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That there's two basic opinions, and that's line 19. فَقِيلَ شَرْطٌ كَالْعَمَلْ وَقِيلَ بَلْ شَطْرٌ وَالْإِسْلَامُ إِشْرَحَنَّ بِالْعَمَلِ. That it's either a shart or a shatr. Okay? It's either a shart or a shatr. So a shart is a condition. A shart is a condition. Whereas the shatr of something is part of its essence. The shatr is a portion or a part of something's essence. So the issue is the shahada, is it a type of condition for faith, related to faith, or is it the actuality of faith? Okay. Now, the stronger opinion, according to the later scholars of the Ashari and Maturidi schools, is that it is a shart. It's a condition. The first one. It's a shart. What is it a condition of? They say it's a condition لإجراء الأحكام الدنيوية. They say it's a condition شرط لإجراء الأحكام الدنيوية. It's a condition for the legal rulings of Islam to be applicable to the person. So what they're saying is that the actuality, the haqiqah or the essence of Iman, what's called the quiddity, the mahiyya in Arabic. The mahiyya comes from mahiyya. What is it? Right? What is it in its essence? The essence of Iman is tasdeeq fil qalb. It's that affirmation, it's that assent or acceptance and submission to what one knows in the heart. That's the essence of Iman. If a person has that, they're a mu'min. If a person has that, they're a mu'min. But what about the shahada? It's a condition. Condition for what? Condition so that we can know they're a mu'min, so that the rulings apply. So that we say, that the Assalamu Alaikum, initiate salam to them, or pray the janazah on them, or that the inheritance laws would apply, or all of the rules of Islam that apply to members of the community. The condition for those rules to apply is that there's a public alama, indication of the iman. There's a public alama or indication of the iman. So they say this applies to someone who, first of all, there's no impediment that they have, like a speech impediment or something. Then obviously, they can take their shahada through ishara, for example, or there's some other means they could have. And they also exclude someone that refuses to give the shahada, meaning that if a person believes in their heart but they refuse to give the shahada, then there's an issue with this tasdeeq even. There's an issue even with the mahiyya of the iman, their refusal to give the shahada, if it's not for a valid reason, like they're under threat or something. Because if someone's under threat, then they can make that lie, as it happened even in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. But assuming they're not under threat and a person refuses to give the shahada, then even the tasdeeq, there's concern about that the ulama differed what would happen to them in the afterlife. But for someone, so the issue that they're discussing is someone who they have no speech impediment, they're able to speak, and they're not refusing to. So What's the status of them if they believe in the heart but have not yet taken the Shahada? Okay, and then they die. What's the answer based on what we said? Person believes in the heart, accepts it in the heart. They have Iman in the heart. They don't refuse to take Shahada. They just never got a chance to, and then they die. Okay, so are they a mu'min in the akhirah? Yeah, because we said that the Shahada was not a shatr, it was not a part of the essence. It was a condition for something that related to Iman. So they're not having taken Shahada does not mean that their Iman is not valid in the akhirah. But do we pray on that person? Would they inherit? Do the rulings of Islam apply? No, because we have no way of knowing their Iman. So this is what they mean. What they mean here, that faqila shartun, that it's a type of condition. Shahada is a type of condition, i.e., so that publicly the community can know that the person really has Iman, right? That they really have Iman. But what they'll say is that such a person who did not get a chance to give the Shahada, but they have Iman in the heart, on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, they're a mu'min and a Muslim. Because that's Islam. Islam is to believe in the heart. They are a Muslim with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we'll talk about the Iman Islam in a little bit, inshallah. So that's the dominant opinion, that the Shahada is a condition for the legal rulings to apply, for the legal rulings of Islam to apply to the person. Okay? The other opinion that it's a shatr, that it's actually from the mahiyya, because some, bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Some of the early Hanafi Imams, Imam Sarakhsi, Imam al-Bazdawi, Fakhr al-Islam al-Bazdawi, Shamsul al-A'imma al-Sarakhsi, rahimahumullah, and Imam al-Nasafi, whose creed we referred to earlier, and it was a central creed taught in most of the madaris of the Muslim lands, that they actually said that the Shahada was part of Iman. They actually said Shahada was a part of Iman. So the basic idea is that from our perspective, we can't know the Iman of anyone unless they take the Shahada. The basic idea is that from our perspective, we cannot know the Iman of anyone unless they take the Shahada. So they actually considered the nutq, the speaking of the Shahada, to be from the mahiyya, from the essence of Iman. But the vast majority of the Sunni theologians, Ashari, as well as Imam Maturidi himself, they said that no, it is a condition for it's merely a condition for the applicability of the legal rulings. And it could be a semantic difference, Allah knows best. And the narration of Abu Hanifa, there's some discrepancy. Some said he was of the first, some said he was of the second. So the other opinion, Imam Laqani says here, rahimahullah, وَقِيلَ بَلْ شَطْرٌ, that the other opinion is that no, rather it is part and parcel of faith, part and parcel of Iman, okay? Meaning that it, one does not have Iman until they actually express verbally what they believe in their heart, okay? But as we said, that the sort of the reconciliation of this is that it is a shart for ijra al-ahkam al-dunyawiyya. So it's true from our perspective, we don't know the Iman of anyone without their elocution of the Shahada, but technically, as long as a person doesn't refuse to give Shahada and they believe in the heart and they died, we believe that Allah would accept that Iman and they would be Muslim with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, and now the really significant and dangerous issue is the amal, right? He says, rahimahullah, wal-Islam ashrahanna bil-amal, and explain Islam to be action. So this is a very, very involved issue, and we'll just kind of quickly highlight some of the key parts of it. But what's the status of works? What's the status of spiritual works, of action in terms of a person's faith. The Sunni position, the Sunni position is that works are, so because he says, if you look at the first of the line, he says, فَقِيلَ شَرْطٌ كَالْعَمَلِ فَقِيلَ شَرْطٌ كَالْعَمَلِ. So the first opinion, which we said was, that's the one that the later theologians agreed with, that it is a condition just as is amal. So amal is also what? A condition. But they say that it's a different type of condition. So the nutq, shahada, is a condition for what? Applicability of legal rulings. It's a shart for applicability for legal rulings because the mahiyya, the essence, the quiddity of Iman does not have a verbal component. Okay. Amal is also a shart. Actions are also a condition, but they're not a condition for the applicability of legal rulings. They're not a condition for us to accept someone as being Muslim. Okay, that's a very dangerous position. The Sunni position is they're a condition of kamal. Actions or spiritual works are a condition for kamalul iman, for the completion or perfection of faith. Meaning that if a person believes in their heart in Islam and they give their shahada and they don't have much in the category of spiritual works, they don't have much works to show for it, we do not deem them to be non-Muslim. They are still Muslim. This is really, really important because amal or Islam, if explained as amal, if the term Islam is used for amal, then it's not a condition, it's not from the essence of Iman, which is what? Tasdiq al-qalb, right? And it's not a condition for the applicability of legal rulings, it's a condition of kamal. Okay, it's a shartul kamal. And this is how we understand, because there's many, many narrations. So for example, that, first of all, that Allah Ta'ala does atf, He conjoins in a conjunctive, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, people that have iman and do righteous deeds. And the default in Arabic, the default of an atf, the default of a conjunction of and is what's called mughayara, is that there's a difference in meaning. Okay? So the default, your original assumption in the Arabic language when the word and is used is that two things are different. If I say ja'a Zaydun wa tabib, Zayd and the physician came, then my default assumption is the physician is someone other than Zayd. Right? Ja'a Zaydun wal Kareem. Zayd and the generous one came. Kareem is referring to someone else. That's my original default. And the Quran, when it says, Allah Ta'ala says so many times, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, people that have iman and they work righteously. The fact that there's so many hadith about the believer will be taken out of the fire. The believer, even if he has a mustard seed of iman, will be taken out of the fire. And so committing sin does not remove iman. It's not a negation of iman, right? If a Muslim commits sins or they don't do their obligatory works, that does not negate their iman. That they still have iman, and they still have that hurma, the sanctity of a fellow Muslim. And you can appreciate now the danger if that amal is considered to be from the essence of faith, from the mahiyya, from the quiddity of faith, right? You have a big problem now, because then your fellow Muslim that doesn't have amal, they don't practice in a certain way, khalas, they don't have iman, and their blood becomes halal. A'udhu billah. And this is what you see. There's people, Muslims that committing acts of terror against fellow Muslims. They say, well, those women weren't wearing hijab, those men weren't praying. They were doing this sin and they were doing that sin, and khalas. You can see the danger of this mentality. And this is why the Sunni position is very, very clear, is that the amal is not from the mahiyya. It's not from the essence of faith. It is related to it, and it's critical. Okay? It's critical for faith. It's not, so this position is not saying that amal is of no significance. The Muslim that commits sins and does not repent from them, that they're in the mashi'a of Allah, they're in the irada, Allah Ta'ala, they're in the will of Allah. Allah can choose to forgive them, or he can choose to punish them. So it's a very serious matter, but they're still Muslim. They're still Muslim. And so, because the Mu'tezzila, for example, the Mu'tezzila said that the Muslim does not have amal, they don't have sound practice, that they are in a manzila bayna manzilatayn. They are in a station between two stations, i.e. neither Iman nor kufr. Neither Iman nor kufr. It's some sort of middle ground that they made up, and they said the result of this station would be hellfire, but less punishment than the kafir. Less punishment than the rejecter of faith. Okay? So they did not consider them to be as a sound full believer as the Sunnis did. The Khawaarji were even more so. The Khawaarji said they're just kafir. Any Muslim that commits a kabira, any Muslim that commits a major sin, the Khawaarij said that they're out of Islam. And that you see a lot of Khawarijism today in this extreme tendency, in this extreme, a lot of the criminal activity, terror activity that's being done. So this is a very critical issue, and I think we can appreciate that, inshallah. And so this is how they explain that but what about the ahadith that la yu'minu ahadukum hatta, right? There's so many ahadith that begin with la yu'minu ahadukum hatta yuhibbu li akhihi hatta yuhibba li akhihi ma yuhibbu li nafsihi, that none of you has iman. Look at the wording. None of you has iman until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. Does that mean that if a person has a problem with hasad, if they don't love for their brother what they love for themselves, and they wish that Allah take away their brother's blessings and give it all to them instead, if a person has that disease, does that mean they don't have iman? What do you think? It'd be pretty scary. A lot of Muslims would, may Allah give us afiyah and protect us from hasad. But they say, the commentators will say, la yu'minu ahadukum imanan kamilan. That's the commentary. That none of you have iman in a complete manner. Because this is a type of deficiency in the fruits of one's faith. This is a type of a naqs, a deficiency in the kamal, in the perfection of faith. La yu'minu ahadukum hatta yakuna hawahu tab'an lima ji'tu bihi. That none of you believe until his inclinations and his desires are in complete, perfect accordance with the sacred law, with what I brought, sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. So if a person has a hawa, they have a desire, a person might desire to do a sin that's not in accordance with the sacred law. On the outward of that hadith, it'd be very scary that the person doesn't have any iman. Well, what do the commentators say? La yuminu ahadukum imanan kamilan. Because amal is shart kamal. Actions are a condition for the perfection of faith. And so none of you have complete and perfected faith until his hawa, until his inclinations are in perfect accordance with the sacred law. And the hadith that, al-iman bid'un wa sab'una shu'ba, that faith is 70 some odd branches. Bismillah. Faith is 70 some odd branches, the highest of which is La ilaha illallah, the lowest of which is imatatul adha anit tariq, is removing the harm from the road. So a Muslim walks by, there's a big harm on the road, they say, they just move on, and they were able to move it, and they decide not to. Are they kafir? It's pretty scary if you think about it, right? If someone doesn't fulfill all 70 of those branches, are they outside? Do they not have iman? No. And the ulama clarified that the kamal of iman, the perfection of faith, has 70 some odd branches. Or they say that the ta'wil, they say the branches of faith are 70 some odd branches, right? The branches, and the branch is not the trunk, right? The branch extends off of it and it produces the fruits. But the trunk, the tree itself is, right? It's what it comes off of. And so this is the way that the ulama reconciled these texts and interpreted all of these nusus, these texts. And then he says, وَالْإِسْلَامَ شَرَحَنَّ بِالْعَمَلِ. That, so Islam explain it as amal. So, the way so Islam it means to submit. Okay, Islam, the word Islam means submission. And they say that it deals with the external. Okay, the Islam of someone deals with the external, like the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam, that Islam is the Shahada and then the other four pillars of Islam, right? So that it's an external phenomenon. And that's what he's saying here, وَالْإِسْلَامِ شَرْحَنَّ بِالْعَمَلِ. So it's an outward submission. It's an outward submission of, so they say that al-imtithalu, Imam Bajuri says, rahimahullah, ma'na al-Islam shar'an, the legal definition of Islam in the sacred law. What does Islam mean? Al-imtithalu wal-inqiyadu. It's following and submitting, it's adhering and submitting لما جاء به النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, to everything that the Prophet brought صلى الله عليه وسلم, مما علم من الدين بالضرورة, that which is necessarily known of the religion, and we talked about that. So the Shahada itself and then the practice, okay, that's Islam. But they clarify that even in this, what if someone doesn't, what if they fall short in what's necessarily known of the religion? What if they commit those major sins, or what if they don't pray? They're still Muslim. Okay, and so Imam Asawi rahimahullah, when he defines Islam, that he adds the qaid. He says rahimahullah, he says, هو الامتثال المأمورات واجتناب المنهيات. It's fulfilling the obligations and avoiding the prohibitions. والمراد الإذعان لتلك الأحكام. What's meant is submitting to these rules, وعدم ردها, and not rejecting them. سواء عملها أم لا, whether they actually do it or not. So again, it's this outward submission and acceptance of the rules of Islam that are necessarily known, and not rejecting them. Whether the person actually is able, they have the spiritual himma to do it, or they don't. Okay? So we're not belittling works by any means, right? That these are obligations and these are essential, and a person could very well be punished. But we're just preserving the fact that if a person does not, if they fall short in prayers, or if they fall short in zakat, or they fall short in fasting, or the different obligations of the religion, or if they commit these, what's ma'lum min ad-din bid-darura, the necessarily known unlawful acts of Islam, like murder or drinking alcohol, etc., that they're still Muslim. That they're still Muslim, because they're inwardly they've believed and they've expressed that they are believers, so they're outwardly accepting these ahkam and not rejecting them. Does that make sense? So, in terms of Iman and Islam, then, they say that if you think about it, the definitions are different, okay? Because one is internal and the other is external. Iman, the definition of it was an internal acceptance and submission to what one knows of the religion that to be true, and Islam is an external acceptance of the law, an external acceptance of the law and not rejecting the law, okay, on the outward. So they say that while the definition is subtly different, they are really like two sides of the same coin. They're really like two sides of the same coin. So they have a type of talazum, which means like a concomitance, that whenever you have one, you have the other. Whenever you have one, you have the other. And this is the classical Sunni position when they say that al-Islamu wal-Imanu wahidun. Okay, this is, you'll see in certain texts of our in the Nasafiyya, for example, in other texts, they say al-Islamu wal-Imanu wahidun. Islam and Iman are one. What do they mean by that? Obviously, the meanings of the words are different. One is internal, the other is external. What they mean is there is a concomitance, that they're always together. Now, that concomitance is they say that it refers to when seen from the same vista. When seen from the same vista, i.e., us as human beings, when we look at other human beings, if we affirm Islam, we affirm Iman. And if we affirm Iman, we affirm their Islam. That if I see my fellow Muslim, he's my fellow mu'min. And if I see a fellow mu'min, he's my fellow Muslim. That they go together always from my lens. Because I don't know the heart. This is really important. I do not know the heart. So whenever there's an external indicator of the heart, which is Islam, the fact that people outwardly accept the sacred law and they don't outwardly reject it, okay? Taking the Shahada for a non-Muslim or for a Muslim to outwardly not reject it, to not mock it, to not demean it, to not speak ill of the sacred law. All these would be a rejection, but not doing any of that, then he's my fellow Muslim and mu'min. The two always go together from my lens, and I can't separate. And the same is true from the, we're limited by language, but from the vista or lens of the divine, from the perspective of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that salvific Iman is salvific Islam, and salvific Islam is salvific Iman. That if a person is really sincere in their Iman, then with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're mu'min and Muslim. And if a person is, na'udhu billah, they don't have Iman, then with Allah, they're neither. And therefore, the hypocrite, the munafiq, a true hypocrite, like someone who's like a spy or someone that's lying about their Islam, completely lying and a full hypocrite. A person like that, from the outward, they say they're Muslim. So what's their ruling from our lens? Muslim and mu'min. And such a person, what's their ruling from the lens of the divine? Neither Muslim nor mu'min. So there's concomitance always, as long as it's one lens. But if you look at it from both lenses simultaneously, you can have a difference. Okay, because you can have a hypocrite who, from our lens, is a Muslim. He says he's a Muslim, so he's a Muslim. And from the lens of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah forgive me for saying that, there's limits of language, but from the perspective of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're neither, because they're a true, full hypocrite. Or, for example, a person who, a non-Muslim who believes in their heart sincerely and never has a chance to take the Shahada and they pass away. From our lens, what was their status? Do we pray janazah on them? No, because they never took Shahada, we don't know. And so their default was that they weren't Muslim, and so from our lens, they're neither Muslim nor mu'min. Concomitants from our lens. But from the lens or from the perspective of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're what? Mu'min and Muslim. So this is what they mean, that the Sunni position, that al-Islamu wal-Imanu wahidun, that Islam and Iman are one in the same, not necessarily in the meanings of the words, because one is an internal phenomenon, the other is an external phenomenon, but in the concomitants, that they always go together as long as we're considering it from the same perspective. No. And Allah knows best. And so then, rahimahullah ta'ala, he gives examples in line 20 that basically the 5 pillars, مثال هذا الحج والصلاة كذا الصيام فدري والزكاة, that the example of this, so this is giving particulars after the universal. The universal is Islam, the particulars, example of this is Hajj, Salat, likewise Siyam, fasting, and realize this as well as the Zakat. Continue, inshallah. Yeah. Okay, so the next line, 21. Does anyone want to read it, inshallah? 21 and 22, inshallah.
I have the mic for anyone who wants to read the lines. Bismillah. ورجحت زيادة الإيمان بما تزيد طاعة الإنسان. The preferred opinion is that faith, Iman, increases by means of a person's acts of obedience increasing.
Continue. Yeah.
ونقصه بنقصها وقيل لا خلف كذا قد نقلا. Likewise, it decreases as the acts of obedience decrease. Some say that it does neither. Others say the difference is only semantic. At least this is what was transmitted.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. وَنَقْصُهُ بِنَقْصِهِ. No. So this is the issue now of faith. Does it increase or not? Does faith increase or not? Does Iman go up and down or not? So the classic Ashari position is presented in the beginning. وَرُجِّحَتْ زِيَادَةُ الْإِيمَانِ بِمَا تَزِيدُ طَاعَةُ الْإِنسَانِ. That what's given preponderance was seen, what is deemed to be a stronger opinion, is that faith in fact does increase based off of the works of a person, the spiritual works of a person increasing. So when a person practices the religion more, then there's a type of increase in the Iman. And there's many verses of the Quran that the outward of which say this explicitly. So وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. That Surah Al-Anfal verse 2, that when the verses of the Quran are recited, when the verses of Quran are recited upon them, recited to them, زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا, their Iman is increased. Okay, their Iman is increased. وَنَقْصُهُ بِنَقْصِهِ. And then likewise, a person's Iman can go down by the decrease in spiritual works. Okay? وَقِيلَ لَا. The Imam Al-Azam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala and the Hanafiya, so they say that no, that Iman does not change. Okay, Iman does not go up and down. They said that that Iman is, what is Iman? What did we say Iman was? It's tasdeeq, right? Which it's the hadith al-nafs at-tabi' lil-ma'rifah. Okay, so it's this internal acceptance, qabul and id'an. It's this internal acceptance and submission to what goes along with what? Ma'rifah, which is what? Jazm, mutabiq lil-waqi'. So a certainty, okay, an absolute certainty that corresponds with reality. So if Iman is a certainty, if it's predicated upon a certainty, certainty does not change. Imam Abu Hanifa radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that certainty does not change. It's either there or it's not. Because if someone does not have certainty, then that's not Iman. If a person's like, maybe this religion is true, I think it is, but I'm not sure yet, then they're not a mu'min, right? That the Iman is a certainty. So Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, his perspective was that if it's already at 100%, how can it go up or down? Because if it goes down, it's no longer Iman. And 100% cannot go up. And so he said that there's different interpretations of the verses, such as the one we mentioned, that would seem to indicate a change in Iman. That he said, first of all, it could be that things to believe in, that when the ayat are recited, they have more things to have Iman in. Okay. Another interpretation is that it's what are called the thamarat of Iman, the fruits of Iman. Okay, and what they term like the ishraq of the nur and the daya, so this illumination and the fruits of Iman that are in the heart. So now this is something to reflect on, that Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he's looking at the sort of the technical reality of faith. And if faith is absolute certainty, then it's unchanging. Okay, it's either there or it's not there. And that, however, he does admit that something obviously increases with spiritual works, right? That all of us can appreciate this, that there's, the more we practice the religion, the more we're around good company, the more we are, connected, as it were, that we sense something increasing, right? We sense something increasing. The Asharis would say that's your Iman going up. That's the Iman increasing. Abu Hanifa would say that's the fruit of your Iman and the light of your Iman and the illumination of your Iman that's increasing. So that's why he says, rahimahullah, that وَقِيلَ لَا خُلْفَ, that it's said that there's not even a difference of opinion in reality. It's a semantic issue. Like Fakhruddin al-Razi, rahimahullah, he said that it's really semantic, that some of them were looking at the essence of Iman, and others were looking at, they considered that the fruits were from the essence. So are these fruits and this illumination, is it from the essence of Iman, or is it something above and beyond Iman? This is really the reality of this difference of opinion, and Allah knows best. So, and the Asharis, they would argue that, if you argue that Iman doesn't change, then the Iman of Abu Bakr, Allah be pleased with him, would be equivalent with the Iman of the worst Muslim who commits all of these sins. And that's certainly not true. But Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, would probably respond that what we will affirm as being different are the fruits of the faith of the two. That they both have jazm. If the bad Muslim is still is Muslim, then he has certainty that this religion is true and he believes it. He's just in a bad state and he's not practicing, he's falling short. But what the difference between the two, which is affirmed, is not in the essence of Iman, or the technical meaning of Iman, but rather these thamarat and the anwar, the fruits and illumination. But the Asharis would respond, no, that is Iman. That those fruits and illumination are part of Iman. And Iman, in fact, does go up and down. And Allah knows best. وَقِيلَ لَا خُلْفَ. It's said that there is really no difference. كَذَا قَدْ نُقِلَ. It could very well be a semantic difference of opinion. And inshallah, I think that what's really important for us to take home from that is whether those fruits and that illumination is from the actuality of Iman, or it's something related to Iman. We should certainly appreciate and do our best to have those and increase those. That whether we call those, whatever increases, whether we call it Iman proper, or Abu Hanifa's opinion that it's something extending from Iman, practically for us it doesn't matter. We want it, and we should seek it, and we should give everything we can to get it. And the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the awliya of Allah, that the wali, one of the scholars, he said the wali is the one who tawalat imtithaluhu bi-awamirillah, is the one that he is. Tawala is the form 6 of the same root as wali. It means to be consecutive, successively, one step after the next. The person is in a state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the wali, according to this, is related to this tawali, this consecutive, day by day, night after night, moment after moment, to consistently be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to consistently experience these fruits and seek these fruits and experience and seek this illumination. And that, the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're sort of in a zone. Like what we use in the West, the term they're in the zone. They're literally like, and that's why they don't want any distractions, because they're so focused on these fruits and illumination, according to our masters, that it has a very potent ladha, that they actually taste the fruit, and that it can be so overwhelming that that's all their concern is. Their concern is just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and nothing else. So, we ask Allah ta'ala to make us amongst them, and to give us their company, to forgive us for our shortcomings, and to give us the fruits and illumination of Iman. Inshallah ta'ala, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad and nabiyil ameen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.